We've all been there, in the middle of a job, everything going smoothly, until boom, you're missing a part. United Refrigeration is your one-stop shop for all your refrigeration needs. Use your computer or smartphone to go to www.uri.com at any time of day or night to check stock on your favorite brands, such as Copeland, Sporlan, Carlisle Compressors, Danfoss, Emerson CPC boards and sensors, Carrel, Hussmann Parts, and co2. United Refrigeration Inc. is home to these brands and many more. Looking for information on refrigerant conversions or refrigerant banking? Quick access links on the homepage can get you to the information you need. All approved accounts are able to see live-to-the-minute inventory and pricing. Product not in stock at your local branch? No problem. Use the Nearby Stock feature to find a local branch that does have what you need. Are you looking for a branch address, phone number, or after-hours number? That's all available as well. Just click on the branch locator and search for your local branch. Have a model number and looking for a replacement part? www.uri.com/ARP has a vast list of quick pick replacement parts. Just search for the model number of the equipment you're working on and click the Replacement Parts tab. If you don't have an account, click the Register button and we'll have you online in no time. With more than 400 locations in North America, each United Refrigeration branch is fully stocked for immediate pickup. Our branch employees have in-depth technical knowledge, so we can help you get what you need when you need it. Visit your local store or www.uri.com/ARP today. United Refrigeration Inc. has all your solutions down cold.
The Sporlan division of Parker Hannifin Corporation is sponsoring this podcast. Sporlan is the leading manufacturer of HVAC&R components. Using quality materials and craftsmanship, Sporlan maintains a commitment to innovation, manufacturing excellence, service, and support for its customers since 1934. The company is known for its catch-all filter dryers, thermostatic expansion valves, solenoid valves, pressure regulating valves, suction filters, electric valves, controllers, supermarket monitoring solutions, chemicals, smart service tools, ZoomLock Max, Press to Connect, and ZoomLock Push, Push to Connect refrigerant fittings. If folks want to learn more, what do they do?
You can go to sporlan.com.
I guess that's Jim and John for Sporlan signing off.
Hello guys, this episode is brought to you by Fieldpiece. Fieldpiece's next generation of vacuum pumps will cut down on evacuation time and make oil changes on the fly a breeze. They are lightweight, durable, and feature 4 inline ports plus a large oil reservoir. Get pumped about these 3 new Fieldpiece vacuum pumps available at distributors now. Learn more at fieldpiece.com or follow us on social media at Fieldpiece Products. Thanks again, and thanks for listening.
This uplifting cinematic experience.
I've got something important to tell you, man.
The big story is...
Dig this and dig it deep.
Hey, good effort. Way to go, way to go.
Dude, don't encourage him.
You assholes know I'm being sarcastic, right?
I've been called the songbird of my generation.
Holy shit.
I'm holding in a huge miss, so could you get to the point?
Terrible! Awful! I hated it!
War's over, man. Wormer dropped the big one.
Bloody psychopath.
High-functioning sociopath.
Yet I never thought I'd see the day when 2 such highly reputable mischief makers as yourselves douse their drawers at the side of a mall security guard.
I see you got fat.
The force is strong with this one.
What are you, 8?
You're waking the neighbors!
You still look like a 15-year-old girl, but not hot.
This room is fucking miserable all the time.
Garage.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Advanced Refrigeration Podcast. You're here with your host Brett Wetzel and Kevin Compass. Why is it so hot in that room?
Because it's 107 degrees outside and it's a bonus room.
Your air conditioning doesn't work in there?
It didn't yesterday, but fuck off.
What happened? Capacitor?
No, the fucking contactor went out. I didn't clean the coil because, everything's burning over here and, nobody wants to do this job anymore.
You know what? It's getting to that point. Like every year, I've always heard, "Oh, it's getting worse. It's getting worse," and it was progressively getting worse. This is the
when it fell off the fucking wagon. The wheels are gone. It's just dragging on the bottom.
My assumption is that people realize they could probably make some money off of OnlyFans, like shooting pictures of their feet and stuff. So, why would they have to go to work? I don't know. I understand they expect that it needs to be fixed within a certain amount of time, but that's just not happening because we're dwindling. We're dwindling in technicians. It's absolutely. I've heard certain areas have multitude of racks down for days.
Oh, there's probably 30 plus racks down still right now.
In Chicago area?
Oh yeah,
that's horrible.
I mean, it's 107. It never gets that hot out here. That is the hottest. Yesterday was the hottest I've seen. It got to 111.
Oh my god,
we're way over design. And in every shitty store, it's like, well, here's a sprinkler and here's a prayer and have a nice day. Change your condenser.
So this was a discussion that I just had, I think yesterday, and units are sized typically off of the ASHRAE guide, and typically condensers are 15% oversized, to accommodate for those 30-year highs, and that's really what they range it by. The ASHRAE guide is usually updated every 10 years. And they use a 30-year average, but now they're going to start to switch to a 10-year average, because if you go off of 30 years, you're not going to really see that increase, because in a 30-year period, you might have 1 year that it's a cool down period where it's not nearly as hot. So just they're rethinking of how they're going to do it.
Let me tell you about that 15%. That turns into, we got more room to add some shit on this rack.
Yeah, we'll just listen. We'll put on a bigger compressor. We'll put on another 20 or 40 foot of lineup, and it'll be fine. And then
15%. I mean, then we're going to wash the condenser. We're going to hire some fucking convicts to wash condensers. And because they're going to do a great job at that. They're not going to bend half the fins, and this is be great. It's great. Or this year, COVID, we're not going to wash any condensers. we'll let those RTF run till it's fucked.
Well, and that's the other thing. Every year that condenser loses efficiency. Every single year, whether it be degradation, whether it be salt on the in the air. What's that?
When you got morons putting sprinklers on them all the time instead of washing them, like this certain chain we have down here. Yeah, this is self-washing condensers.
They actually have them?
No, yeah. Well, yeah, if you just put sprinklers on them and don't hose them off. I mean, I only went to 6 rack down calls yesterday that all had sprinklers underneath them. The in-house guy put on there and didn't bother hosing off the blankets on there.
So he's just wetting the mats that are already on there?
Yeah, it just makes the fucking airflow less.
See how high we can bring that static pressure across that condenser.
No, why do we keep losing condenser fan motors?
Maybe it's the wrong part. I don't know. It could be the blanket too. I don't know.
We'll throw some bigger fuses in there. Oh, the wire's melted now. Yeah, that's my general consensus. I literally just left a store and I was like, you know what? I don't know what to tell you. I hope it stays running for your guys' sake, but you should have called it in yesterday when the rack went down, not 24 hours later.
Well, so sometimes in that instance, which is going to bring us into, the subject that we're going to talk about today, but part of that, you sometimes have to make a decision with the store. You want the rack to continue to run, then you need to remove product out of a bunch of these, multi-deck open cases and put it in the walk-in if you want to at least keep it. Just, we can isolate and try to figure out what rack's going to do what, try to keep the load down as much as possible. But at that point, it's putting out fires while you're on a unicycle that's on fire.
They're like, oh, it went down yesterday? Yeah, the frozen food has been your cases are 60. I don't know what to tell you. Like,
they didn't pull it. They didn't pull any of the product.
Just started pulling it when I got there. They had one aisle pulled, and the guy's like, yeah, it's really soft. It's stuck in defrost for what, 24 hours? Yeah. Like,
guess that chain now has milkshakes.
I don't know. I walked into a store this morning at 7 a.m. and they're like, all the racks are down. Okay. They went down yesterday. Oh, okay. And
it may sound stupid, but I do like miss being out in the chaos. I really do.
Not preventable chaos.
Okay, no, so preventable yes.
Chaos from like working all night because people can't wash condensers or they cut that out of the budget. Like that's insane.
No, I agree.
Or like today, I was working on some 38-year-old condenser, things as old as you. I mean, like Jesus Christ, like what am I supposed to do with that? Like I'm not a miracle worker. Like it had no fins on the bottom. Like how much are you trying to get out of this? Like what does it stop? Like you put all in this store. They put all new cases in downstairs, all new multi-deck cases, and all new frozen food doors. Fuck that! You should have got condensers.
It's a Mac account. It's under contract. Weld them back on. Weld the fins back on.
I look over at the Seasons 4 unit. The fucking coil's gone. I'm like, yeah, well, they got that. They should have got the racks.
How? Like, is it just like what is eating the coil so bad? Like, I mean, typically it's salt water
it's running on for 35 years.
Okay. All right, that makes sense.
I mean, the water up by us is hard. Like especially by me. Like I watched it bend a microchannel coil after running on it for like 2 weeks. Melted it.
That's not supposed to. You're not supposed to do that.
Yeah. Well,
why would you ever put water on a microchannel?
Yeah, Brett. I mean, people are desperate right now. I had a pump running. I had to go buy a booster pump for a store today.
What do you
120 volt booster pump because they didn't have enough water pressure for the 7 sprinklers.
Did they have enough flow once you put the booster on there? Yeah. Like, because you had enough volume.
I had a 120 volt fucking booster pump with a 3/4 inch hose feeding it. Then it pushed down to or a 5/8. Yeah, 5/8 hose.
7 sprinklers.
I had to buy booster pump. Yeah, there's no fins left. It's basically like a water drip. Like
it's a seafood case. It's a seafood case. Yeah. The serpentine copper.
It smells too.
Oh
yeah.
How's everyone else enjoying the wonderful weather? I mean, it's messed up. So like it's burning down in Texas. It's burning down in Chicago. The high today I think was 85 in California. I don't understand it. I don't get it at all.
I hate you. All right, so let's dive into this because I want to make a couple part episode out of this. We're going to start talking about CO2 racks and high ambience, how to deal with them, what works, what doesn't work, how to make it through this hell that the engineer didn't size for. Okay, so first things first. I mean, most of these racks, you start getting up 1,400, 1,500 pounds, you're going to start tripping off on the EMS cutouts. So you're going to be walking this really fine line like we are right now of the high pressure valve causing head pressure issues and the high pressure valve keeping the receiver from just blowing its load. So you walk this fine line. If there is absolutely anything on the gas cooler, you're done not making it. If there is any fan motors not 100% operational, you're not making it when it's this hot. So go ahead, Brett.
Could you do like you would like a normal condenser with the Abatic? I've never tried it before, but I'm a lot of times if you have one fan out, it's going to not, it's basically the air is going to go in through the top and out through the sides instead of going through the coil. Have you ever tried to block that one off for a Hail Mary just to see if you can get it by with,
I'm going to be honest with you, every gas cooler and almost every new condenser, the fans have been, the bays are divided.
Oh,
we don't really use adiabatic up here.
Okay.
They
don't. Wait, they don't.
I only have one rack up here with adiabatic condensers. We have shitty water.
Yeah, but so is California. But they got because of the mandates out here with all the energy stuff out here. I mean, there's.
But it also goes down to humidity. I mean, Chicago, the humidity is high as shit. So
you don't think parts of California are?
I'm sure they are, but not like Southern California where it's dry and humid. I mean, where you're gonna get that benefit of that. So we'll go into that in a second.
Okay.
But yeah, on those, you're gonna have to cover that fan top. And to be honest, with those, I go to Harbor Freight and I buy a fucking 36-inch shop fan and stick it up.
I was going to say vibrator. I was wrong.
They also have those for concrete.
I saw the Milwaukee one. Did you see that?
Yeah. So you're such an asshole, So keeping that gas cooler spotless is key. And then with the adiabatic, I don't give a shit what you need to do. You need to pull the pads. You need to pull the pads and look behind it. Make sure it's not plugged up with cottonwood or anything else. You got to keep that gas cooler clean because otherwise it's going to clamp down on that high pressure valve more. And the more it clamps down on the high pressure valve, the higher it's going to make the discharge. And same thing with the flash tank. So a lot of times what I've been doing is using the heat pump portion of the 326A to boost up the flash tank pressure when it is super hot. So we gain a little bit more capacity out of the rack. So we raise the flash tank pressure up. So we may go up another 10, 15 pounds, maybe 20 pounds. So I'll bring it up to 540, 550 if I need to. Just right, you got to watch those reliefs, but that'll give you more capacity on the medium temp and it takes load off the medium temp compressors. Go ahead, Brett.
Is that because you're basically reducing the compression ratio by raising the head by raising the pressure, by raising the suction pressure, which inevitably is going to save you more energy?
Well, you're taking load off the medium temp because you're raising the flash gas set point. So you're taking load away from the medium temp, which takes load off the condenser. The medium temp's the entire load. So you're taking that load off of that condenser. So it helps alleviate that strain on there. I mean, we haven't had to do that too much. I mean, we have some racks where they got a pretty hefty load. We will float the flash tank pressure up. And with that setting in there, there's a 326. I mean, I call it a boost setting, but it's for running a higher pressure. Now, you want to make sure your settings are good in that 326 because if you have trash settings in there, you're going to have a horrible time all summer long. The PID settings out there that Hill sends out are absolutely horrendous. I mean, they do not hold a tight flash tank and they hunt all over the place. So, I mean, and then the high pressure valve starts hunting. When it starts hunting, you get this fluctuation and then you'll start slamming compressors on high pressure trips randomly. So what you want to do is you don't want to see any more than a 10-pound swing on a flash tank. If they're swinging 30 to 50 pounds, those valves are hunting all over the place. You want them to stay steady. You want that high pressure valve to stay, moving 2 or 3%. You don't want it moving 15, 20%, swinging up and down because you're never going to be able to keep that that gas cooler steady. You got to remember in the winter, in the summertime, when we're running transcritical, the majority of our condensing is going on in that flash tank. So that's where that load is coming in. So the higher you keep the flash tank pressure, the higher you keep the medium temp suction pressure, and the more steady you keep that high pressure valve, the less problems you're going to have with high pressure issues.
Plus, I mean, not that it's really a big thing, but like when a rack is running transcritical, that's when it's going to be, transferring a lot more, mass flow over to the flash tank. So you want to try to keep that pressure as low as humanly possible, which is going to basically, increase the size of that adiabatic. I can never say that freaking word right. The BAC gas cooler.
Yeah, or I mean, most of the time we have standard gas coolers up here, just like standard condensers.
Just because it gets so cold.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I don't like the BAC stuff. The pumps fail like nonstop.
So they do have a better pump. There's a pump upgrade, which is what's that?
I've literally, like the last 3 that we've had fail, I've gone to Menards, which I don't know if you guys have Menards, do you?
Not in Texas. I've heard of them though.
It's like a Home Depot, but like kind of shittier. You just can't find anything in it.
We got corn feed and all kinds of other farm shit for Indiana.
You just can't find it. It's like a Home Depot where you can't find things and people are less helpful.
Oh, so like a Dollar Tree Home Depot.
Yeah, with like shittier tools.
Oh, like stuff all over the place. Okay, all right, I get it now.
So they have like a $200 sump pump there. Like I've yet to kill one yet.
Really?
Like, yeah, runs fine. Like beat the shit out of it. Runs fine. It's like I could buy 4 of those for what I could buy one of the BAC pumps for.
I don't know the spec. I can't say anything about it.
It runs perfect.
Also making sure all the holes on those type of gas coolers, where the PVC, drops the water across the pads, making sure every single hole is actually clear. Because those controllers I believe they monitor the amount of solids in the water, the ppm, and they do a blowdown every once in a while. They also do a flush, I think, once a day that you have to set for a predetermined time, which I guess in the summertime, if you're running 100 and whatever degrees straight above your what your operation will be, that's going to cause the rack to go down. No.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's a good thing.
And they also, one more thing, they also have on that same BAC gas cooler, they also have a back feed function where basically the fans will then turn in the opposite direction and try to blow any of that crap, feathers or anything else that's stuck to that pads outward. But then once again, you really don't. You're not doing much, condensing or gas cooling at that point because, you're blowing in the opposite direction.
So one thing I think I get on guys about with those is pull the pads back, because I've seen times where the pads don't look that bad. And you look and it's like, holy effing hell, that condenser is plugged.
Mm-hmm.
It's a micro channel. So,
well, not every single one.
Not every single one. The CO2 ones are not.
Correct.
But the rack ones are micro channels, and I've seen them at the Amazons. They just plug solid. So get a hose up and wash them.
They also have 2 different type of pads. Like, so for an area that's more caustic, maybe towards the ocean, the beaches and stuff, they have pads that are coated. I think they're like a bluish color, almost like that pretty blue behind you right there now. That's the color of it. But basically you could do that. They also have screens that can go before the pads, which do catch a lot of areas that have cottonwood. Texas is real bad. Anything with a large pollen count is pretty gnarly, and it's good to have those. The only problem with that is you have to make sure you probably wash them, depending on how bad it is, every 2 weeks, because otherwise you're going to build up too much static and then, potentially cause, a restriction, of air going across the coils.
2 weeks, the bean counters come condenser cleaning, period. Like nobody's washing it every 2 weeks.
Well, have you ever seen it's like a black, it almost looks like, oh my God, I can't think of simple words. The thing that you jump on. Trampoline looks like almost like the I mean, it's obviously a little bit wider, but like it looks like
the outside stuff in the Munners units on
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I know exactly what you're talking about. That works pretty good, but those plug up pretty good too.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But it'll prevent you from having to backflow water through those pads, which are extremely freaking heavy after you do that. After they're saturated with water, they're freaking like 3 times the freaking weight.
Yeah. So like one thing that I don't know why they're not doing yet, and I've wanted to try this, is add head cooling fans and medium temp compressors. Because those medium temp pumps run super high discharge temps. So the more you reduce that heated compression, the less that gas cooler is just de-superheating. So that gas cooler then becomes more efficient. The cooler, you're not going to make liquid, but the cooler you get that gas, the less load you're going to have in a flash tank, which I don't know why anybody's doing this for the cost of head cooling fans now. I mean, you could throw head cooling fans on the medium temp pumps, especially if you're in like a super hot area. And I bet you would gain a ton of efficiency out of it.
Well, yeah, because I mean, condensers are based off of size for total heat rejection, not just the amount of BTUs that the rack is rated for. If you have a rack that's rated for 500,000 BTUs, the total heat rejection might be, I don't know the actual math, but let's just say 750,000 BTUs, and that's the amount of BTUs it needs to remove the heat from the de-superheated line of your discharge line, but also as well to turn that refrigerant into a liquid. But in this instance with the CO2, when it's transcritical, you're not going to be able to do that. But by removing more total heat of rejection, by putting the head cooling fan on there, that's basically going to give you a little bit more capacity on your gas cooler. So your gas cooler is doing more work. So maybe we might control a little bit better pressure.
Yeah, I 100% agree. That was my phone. Sorry.
I was wondering what I thought I hit the keypad on the Zoom. And I thought
I accidentally opened a Snapchat.
Where's your head at, boy?
Yeah. So, yeah, no, the head cooling fans is like a great thing, which I don't know why anybody's not doing. That de-superheating is killer. Now, I have seen where they are using a de-superheating loop in the condenser for Zero Zone does this for the low temp compressors. They run a de-superheating loop in the condenser. Now, in the summertime, it's great, because you're lowering that discharge temp before it goes into medium temp suction. In the wintertime, it's a fucking ticking time bomb, because if that 3-way valve fucks up or the controller somehow messes up and that gas makes it on the roof, it's going to be blowing straight liquid into those medium temp pumps. So
how many times were you on the roof today?
I hate you so much. Why?
I was just wondering.
A lot.
How many roofs?
I don't know. 13 calls. So.
Damn, you're an animal. You're an animal.
Yeah, I've been going since 4:30 this morning. So.
I'm totally confused with time right now.
Yeah. With PC Pacific time fucks me up
every single time.
Yeah. So, yeah, de-superheating that. I mean, if you guys have heat reclaim, try to keep it loaded up. Like if you have air heat reclaim, like that's why the Aldis have less problems than all of them for the most part, from what I've seen, because they are using air heat reclaim and it helps out tremendously. Because now they are forcing all that discharge gas into that heat reclaim and it's blowing 50-degree air across it. So it is helping with that load on that gas cooler tremendously. So that, I mean, those Aldis, as long as you get the oil problems taken care of, which we're going to do an entire episode on.
Keep the superheat higher.
Yeah, well, yeah. Just make props go away. Hide them.
Listen, I have a question though. How, like the de-superheater section on a transcritical rack is typically set for about 35 degrees of superheat. How comes they don't lower that anymore? Is it because they can't get an accurate control? I mean, it's typically pulsing solenoids, right? They're ported solenoids typically. On the LMP I saw.
Oh, I run mine way low. Because they don't want to run, Bitzer doesn't want to run any lower than like 35 degrees of superheat because they just explode.
They're not.
They do not handle liquid well.
That they do not. They do not. But I mean, they're not supposed to. You know what I mean? Like, but I did think, like, I know CO2 carries a shit ton of oil out of that compressor. Would you
at 10 degrees of superheat? Yep. You're moving a fuck ton of oil. Like you're going to be picking up oil and moving it. So it's a little bit different with CO2. I mean, 25, 30 degrees. I mean, most of medium temp suctions, I mean, you're probably running in the heat of summer, 20 degrees of superheat if you're lucky. I mean, you got to remember, like a lot of your loads coming out the flash tank. So it is, feet away from the compressor. So I mean, it's still pulling cool vapor off the top of that flash tank.
Are there? I can't. So there's no head cooling fans on the medium temp then.
No,
man. I wonder what that would do. Like as far as like if we had,
it would help tremendously.
Well, I know. So I found out the hard way that the head cooling fan really does remove a lot of energy. And I found this out a hard way. I was doing a conversion at a certain store and converting the Copeland scrolls to Bitzer semi-hermetics. And I had to size up the liquid injection, the Y1037 valve or whatever. And I did not read the directions and did not read where it needed to be wrapped. I mean, I was going to wrap it eventually, but I'm like, the valve isn't feeding. I don't understand why it's not feeding. That discharge line, the compressor just went off. And it was because the head cooling fan was removing so much heat from the discharge line that it basically wasn't allowing that valve to actually feed. So, I mean, I see what you're saying about the head cooling fans, removing so much energy as far as, heat coming off.
It's a lot. Like, I mean, guys don't realize the head cooling fans, not being out. Like, I walked into so many motor rooms today, like, and the discharge temps are like through the roof. Discharge temps are directly related. What?
Nothing.
Discharge temps are directly related to like your condenser sizing. So if your discharge is 250 degrees, your condenser size just got smaller. You knock that discharge down to 180, that condenser just got bigger. Less of that is decelerating.
That also means making sure that you have a really nice cold suction on your low temp as well, because by running a lower suction temperature on your low temp, then we'll make a lower discharge gas temperature leaving that compressor going into the suction of the medium temp. So you're not going to also have to use as much liquid injection as well, because you'll have a lower discharge temp going to your medium temp compressors.
Yes. I mean, a lot of times the low temp suction is always high. Always. I mean, on the CO2 racks. The reason being is, at least for us, 90% of the customers do not put a VFD on the low temp.
Every single new rack that I've seen from past 2 years, every single one, low and high, have at least one VFD compressor.
None of them I've seen, except for
really?
Costco. Yeah. Now,
even the Cascade shit.
Well, here's the Hill, like the Hill slap special. They slap a digital on there and expect it to control superheat good. I'm sorry, like a digital compressor with no EPRs is absolutely trash. Like they do great. If you don't have that like buffer there, a digital compressor with case controllers with no buffer between the compressor and the suction transducer is just shit control.
Hey guys, today's episode is sponsored by Westermeyer Industries Serviceable Oil Floats. Many oil separators contain an oil float to effectively meter separated oil back to the compressors. Westermeyer Industries has taken this concept and perfected it with their new line of serviceable oil floats. These floats feature an improved design with fewer components, allowing for greater manufacturer consistency and up to 20% increased oil flow versus their legacy models. These floats also feature an integrated magnet to shield the oil path from debris and have been field proven in supermarket applications. Westermeyer Industries offer replacement oil floats not only for their own separators, but also cross-compatible models for our competitor oil separators as well. You can find out more about the Westermeyer Industries serviceable oil floats by visiting westermeyerind.com/floats. Once again, that's westermeyerind.com/float. Let's get on with the episode. Question number 3. What pressure differential does a oil pressure switch for a Copeland compressor trip out at? Let me know. Give me your answer at arpgiveaways@gmail.com.
We're talking for the low stage.
Yeah.
But you're running a constant, so I mean, you're running low temp, so you're going to be in the wheelhouse of like -25. So I mean, all your cases are going to be around about in there, right?
Okay. Yeah. I mean, to a point. And like, okay, so we have this chain up here, this Kroger chain called Mariano's. They have no unloading, no digitals, no VFD on the low temps. They have half their cases that run a 0 degree discharge air, and they have half their cases that run a -10 degree discharge air, all on the same suction header. So what happens is microthermal starts controlling EEVs for temperature because everybody thinks case controllers are also great to control temperature. They are not. And then they crank. Yep. They crank back, and then the suction temperature skyrockets. So the higher you get that low temp suction pressure, the raise that saturation up, the more those valves open up, the cooler everything gets. Now, when we get to the Aldis and they're running digital scrolls, I mean, it sucks. I mean, it's not a good application for it, just for the fact that you have one circuit on there, which is the freezer, and maybe the cooler for the meat. You're not going to get good control out of that because that suction pressure swings. I mean, you have a compressor that's constantly unloading every 20 seconds. So every 20 seconds, your process variable's changing. It's not staying steady. There's no buffer. So you don't have that steady buffer, so that superheat calculation is always moving. It's not more linear like the medium temp.
The only thing I think they could probably do is maybe do something along. Hold on, sorry, I messed that up. The only thing I could think of they could do to alleviate that is like you said, some kind of suction control to control the pressure, or you put your superheat a little bit lower on your lower temp case, and then basically raise the suction pressure as high as you can, still maintain that lower temp, just running a smaller TD with lower superheat. Because I mean, it's funny, like we've said what superheat, what we adjusted to, right? 3 to 6, 3 to 5 for low temp, and 6 to 8 for medium temp. But any case controller I've seen for low temp, whoever has the base program in there where they lock it in, they're like, don't touch it, that's what we want. It's like 8 or 12 degrees sometimes on some of these medium temp shit or low temp.
You don't know why they swing all over the place, because they don't know how to tune them. 100%, 99% of those case controllers, especially the XM stuff, is not tuned. It's running the stock settings, or it's got some like ridiculous settings in there. It's not tuned, and that's why the EVs fail, and that's why they went to the pulse valves, and then they made it even worse.
Well, yeah, because you're having worse suction pressure control, for that.
So with all these, they have the XMs, they have PWM for the suction for the suction control. They have that, and they're using PWM for the superheat control. So you have two pulse width modulations going on, and it's just this choppy mess, no matter what you do.
Oh yeah, and it sucks, like with CO2 and stuff. Because I mean, have you ever seen an EPR on a CO2 system?
Yeah, we have some LMP racks with them, and then all the Carnot ones for Costco, they all had EPRs on them. They use CDS valves. They didn't. Carnot only used them for defrost until we talked them in the dairy cooler. We made them do it.
Because the
They
TD
only
issue.
Yep, they only use them for defrost. LMP used them for suction control on the Aldi's coming with pressure coming back. Go ahead.
So I have a question about that. So the fact that you had to do that, because that CDS is essentially going to act like a ball valve, right? So would you put a check valve around the thing?
God, no, I hate those check valves. Like,
okay.
Nothing makes me more like irritated than having those check valves places because, dude, I don't know how many times I've had to dump entire rack charges, or, dude, it's a nightmare. If one of those check valves fail and you're trying to pump something down, it's a safety issue to me.
I get it, but so is the safety issue. You know, I mean, if someone, I guess, if they're not prepared and not okay, never mind. I mean, they should be shutting off the liquid, making sure everything is pumped down first before they try to isolate it. But like, if the case were to warm up on that particular lineup, I mean, where it's just left off, the CO2's in there, it gets up past whatever degrees, it's going to pop that thing.
I'd rather have it pop that thing than a check valve fucking open up on me randomly while I'm working on something.
Agreed.
I mean, no, you don't put a C. There's no point because there's enough check valves and everything else pointing back towards the rack on the liquid side.
Okay, true.
I mean, you don't need it there.
So you have used a CDS valve in a CO2 application for trying to control the pressure.
Yes.
Okay. I've never seen it done. You know, we have a problem with one of the racks where, you know, we lose a liquid velocity because all the pulse width valves that are a higher temperature than what the low part of the cascade runs at basically, you know, shuts down because all the cases are at temperature because they're saturated up to 26, 24. And then here we got this, you know, the cascade heat exchanger that needs to be at 18 in order to, you know, maintain its pressure. And once all those valves, you know, satisfy, they're all to 0%. So there's, you know, it loses the velocity on the DX type refrigerant and we lose liquid feed. And it's a fun time.
Yeah. I mean, that's basically the same thing these CO2 racks do. I mean, and that's why you get so many issues. I mean, I want to convince this chain up here to throw VFDs on their low temp. I mean, some of these low temp pumps are so small. I mean, they're like little tiny babies. Like
Scrolls.
This is a quite large store. It's their recips. So it's about the size of the Roadcaster.
Get the hell out. So I someone posted today that there was some kind of dead body fridge he was working on. So it looked like it was a 2-stage system or something. But those compressors it looks like a little K body, right?
Yeah, it looks like a little tiny K body. Put it this way, that was like a 10 or 12 horse. I picked that thing up by myself to change one. Like,
wow.
And it was like changing a K body in like a true freezer almost. That's how tiny it was. Like it was to the point where I could pick it up with like zero effort.
Was it a Dorn compressor or was it a
Was a Bitzer, little baby Bitzer.
Okay.
Yep.
I don't think I've ever seen
tiny baby Bitzer. But I mean, you're talking this thing was powered off 14 gauge wire, so you're talking no more than probably 15 amps. Dude, a 15 amp VFD. Come on. So even if you double the size, it was a 30. You're talking $1,000, $1,200 for what you would save.
Yeah, to be able to get that capacity control, you know, to compensate for, you know, whether it be pulsing PWM valves or, you know, just trying to control a better suction pressure so your cases actually feed with superheat instead of shut down on temperature control.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you want to avoid. And then back to the controlling the head pressure part, that's what you want to try to avoid. I mean, there is times like right now, I mean, there's 2 CO2 racks. I mean, I had to have guys put sprinklers on. I mean, the condensers are clean, they had good airflow, but it was just to the point where like there's too much load and it just can't handle it. And to be honest, I don't know how to size gas coolers, but these stores we've always had problems with, and I think he'll undersize the gas coolers. And there's like this whole mystery behind that. Like nobody can give me a straight answer on how they size gas coolers.
I was just told how to do that like a week ago. I think
maybe we could have an engineer on one time to go over it. But regardless of that, like making sure that that stuff's all good. I mean, keeping those gas coolers clean. And then the other thing is the screen and the high pressure valves. I see this get missed a lot. If you have a high pressure valve that is open quite a bit, like say like 90% open, and you're still running high pressure and your flash tank's kind of okay, check that valve, pump it down. There's screens in all those valves. So, and it's a pretty fine screen. Like the last one I pulled looked nasty. I mean, you got to remember these racks built like disgusting.
Well, no, I was a couple weeks ago or a couple months ago. I asked for a whole bunch of pictures, and I think I got like 1 or 2 pictures where someone took apart either the BGV or the HGV, and basically showed all the junk that was stuck on the bottom of the screen there.
So I never really the flash gas bypass valves I never really find much in there. It's always the high pressure valve. So now on startup, we let them run for a week and then we pull them. That's what that's my rule now. They run for a week and we pull them. So that way we can make sure they're clean. But that's another head pressure issue. Like guys miss, they're looking at it, they think it needs a sprinkler, and really it's just a high pressure valve. It's open pretty far, but it can't get any flow.
On that valve, when you're taking it apart, is there a seal that you have to replace if you were to take it off and put it back on? No, it's a knife edge.
Danfoss ones that we had, it's a knife edge or a copper gasket.
But you don't need to replace it every time you take it apart.
No, I've never had one leak if I take it apart. Generally, if we're having head pressure issues, so this is another thing. If you are having head pressure issues, a couple things to check. You may have a head pressure issue, but it's actually a flash tank issue. So if that flash tank gets too high, that high pressure valve is going to start clamping down to help reduce the pressure in the flash tank to protect it. So you may be there for tripping on high head when really your flash tank pressure is high. So the first thing I have, like at the Aldi's or the Trader Joe's, when I have guys go there and they're tripping on high head, it's just constantly banging out in the EMS cutout or the manuals. I will have guys, graph out that flash tank, because if that flash tank is super high, like 580 pounds, 600 pounds, depending on what that setting is, it's going to shut that high pressure valve. So there will be a time, if it's super hot out and like that rack room's warm, you may have to vent off the top of the flash tank a little bit to get that rack back rolling. You have to remove some pressure off there, because you got to remember, if that high pressure valve is pinched down and you go to start a medium temp pump, it's going to instantly bang off. You may get it to run for like 30 seconds. So
go ahead. I'm sorry.
So you want to get that flash tank to pressure down, so that way that valve opens up while you're trying to do this.
So I had a question, and I don't know if this is possible. I was thinking about this today because we were talking about energy efficiency and CO2 and stuff. And how do you do a non-condensables test when the temperature is above the transcritical point? Is it possible?
No, I don't think so. I just blow it off.
Well, okay. That brings me to why I brought this up. So like I was thinking, as you were saying, high pressure and stuff like that, I'm thinking on a cascade system, typically it's on the top of the heat exchangers, same thing with the thermal siphon Walmart type thing, with the pump liquid, same thing right off the top of the heat exchangers. Is it on the top of the gas cooler and on top of the flash tank where you would typically burp that system off to see for non-condensables?
Gas cooler, just like a normal rack. So all the gas coolers, we put a 1/2-inch ball valve are packed on the top so we can vent it off. Now, I have grown to do this quite a bit. If I have a large ad, I will generally vent it off. So I will come back the next day or a day later and I will vent it off. It's my phone is blowing up.
Turn it off. Jesus.
So I will generally vent it off afterwards. I'll give it a couple good burps. I don't care what CO2 you use. Every single one of them has impurities in it.
Someone told me in a pinch they had a rack that went down and they couldn't find anything for a couple 100 miles, so they ended up putting the Coca-Cola CO2 in there.
We do the beverage grade all the time.
Do you really?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have a choice sometimes.
So the other interesting fact about that, I'm sorry, I'm boring you with fact now, but apparently they never know what CO2 grade they're actually going to create. It's almost like it's almost like creating alcohol. They're like, well, let's see how high of a purity we can get, and then whatever it is, stamp, that's what it is. So it's not like you can be like, oh, give me the 99.9999999%. That it doesn't work that way. They make what they make, and whatever they get, that's what they get.
Yep. I mean, which is kind of wild. I generally run the CO2 through a filter. I get a flare filter dryer, keep in my truck, 3/8 flare filter dryer, like an 053 or an 083. I'll run it through a dryer. I mean, in a pinch, especially like we used to get instrument grade CO2 from Airgas all the time. Dude, we can't get that shit anytime from them now. They no longer make it.
What?
Yeah, up here the only customers that were buying it was us and 2 other mechanical contractors. They never have it, so we have to get it from some other CO2 manufacturer, and like it's questionable at best. But I mean, we have had zero problems. I don't see any carbonic acid. It doesn't seem wet to me. I mean, the difference between beverage grade CO2 and instrument grade CO2 is not much. You're talking Chinese 404 or like 404 from like Mexico that like they're getting. I mean,
and where are they getting it from? Are they getting it from China?
Probably like the yeah.
Or Brazil. Maybe they make 404 in Brazil.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. Like the last like 600 pounds of gas they put in there all was like Chinese writing on there on a rack. I mean, God only knows what the hell's in that shit.
Well, so here's another wonderful thing that's coming to the world of refrigeration. If no one did not know that, they're going to be getting rid of the disposable bottles. They're going to start putting refrigerant in recovery type cylinders, because they're going to stop the waste of the actual bottles. And it's funny because some of the manufacturers are actually, said something like, I don't think we can do that. Like, they don't think they can produce enough of those cylinders in order to, do what they need to do with, stamping them and making sure they all have the tear weight and all, all the other safety shit that goes along with it. So in the next couple of years, you might be filling up, any type of chemical refrigerant in something that looks like a recovery cylinder, just painted.
I feel like the meth heads over by me that are drilling holes in the anhydrous ammonia tanks trying to fill up propane bottles.
You know what? I've heard of that happening a couple times, usually around farms, because it happens on farms all the time, because they use the anhydrous ammonia for the cooling process. Typically, on any kind of fruits and vegetables, they douse it with really, really cold water that they chill down. Then they pull a vacuum on the room, which actually helps, pull the heat out of that product.
They dump the anhydrous ammonia on its fertilizer. Yeah, like all the anhydrous ammonia at the you see on those farms, they use it for fertilizer.
No, but I've seen like refrigeration process like on fruit farms and veggie farms and shit like that. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about for the fertilizer. I'm not talking poop.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, back to this. Now that we're done with Brett's random quote. You're getting old when you're trailing off on that shit.
I know. I've been, I was talking all day, and I'm just teaching like training, just it I think it's more tiring than I'd rather work a 24-hour shift than teach for 8 hours, because it's just it's mind it's I feel like my mind's mush after. It would be like actually having to do a podcast for 8 hours straight, which I'm sure we could do. I mean, just more nicotine, some caffeine, we'd be straight.
But you were inside all day while I was outside sweating my ass off.
Well, I don't know, that office temperature, it wasn't really that good today.
Wow. So, I'm really mad at you right now. I've lost my train of thought. So, in closing, guys, we'll wrap this one up, and then just keep the gas coolers clean as possible. Check those settings. Make sure the high pressure valve has a clean screen in it. I think it should be pulled every year. Make sure the oil is good. You aren't having oil issues and you're tripping off on oil and the rack's is constantly trying to restart. Make sure your flash tank isn't too high and you're going to be sucking liquid into the pumps, and just, keep the load down. I mean, if you may have to in the heat of summer, if you're down a pump or something, you may have to throw sprinklers on there and reduce that gas cooler load. I mean, that's what you may have to do. Heat reclaim is a great thing. If you have it, make sure it works, because heat reclaim is going to be your friend. It's going to keep that load off the gas cooler, and it's also going to keep the store humidity load down, which is also going to reduce the load in the rack. So, I mean, having that heat reclaim is like a huge thing. And then making sure those compressors, the last thing I want to talk about, the manual safeties on the compressors. So on the high stage compressors, you're going to have these kind of crappy encapsulated pressure controls. It's pretty much been the same with all of them. Or you have the Emerson PSC ones. They have like a huge swing on them. They're like super inaccurate. So some may trip at it is. I mean, some may trip at 1400. Some may trip at like 1500. Some may trip at like 1475. But they got like a 75 to 80 pound deadband on them. So you may have to shut. Yeah. So you may have to shut down the rack for a minute to let the discharge pressure drop low enough for the compressors to reset. I see that a lot. Like, guys can't get them to reset, and they're going off on SLAs, or they can't get the compressor to run, and it's still at high pressure alarm, and they can't get it to run no matter what. They condemn the pressure switch. Well, the pressure switch isn't bad. It hasn't dropped below that threshold for the cut-in yet, and it's been kind of all over the place. I mean, like, these things are. It's hard to make a pressure switch accurate when it's like a random, 1,400 pounds. When you're trying to control a 10-pound pressure switch, it's a lot easier than 1,400 pounds.
Is it? I've never seen like actual non-encapsulated CO2 pressure switches. Do they exist?
No, not that they're all encapsulated.
Yeah, I was just thinking, like, I mean, that would be really cool if you could actually set it and you could do the same.
Well, the Emerson ones, the PSC ones, you can, but like those things have those things are like super unreliable. Like they never hold their adjustment. Like, you can get like 5 of them out of the box and they're all different.
Really? They all wouldn't trip at the same pressure.
Nope.
It's like a 10. Well, I mean, I guess if it would be like a 10 or a 15%, accuracy. I mean, there's your pressure right there.
Accuracy, on 10 pounds versus 1,400 pounds is a big difference.
Yes. And that's what I mean. Like, they might say, hey, they're 10% accurate. Well, that's 100 pounds plus or minus.
Yeah, that's a big thing. The other thing to watch out for, guys, is the flash gas bypass valves failing. I've seen more flash gas bypass valves fail than anything. Never lost a high pressure valve yet. Every time it's a flash gas bypass valve. The Danfoss CCM valves seem to like fall apart.
So what can we use in place? I mean, we can use a Sporlan valve, right?
Yep. And I have a rack right now that I cut a CDS valve in, and it's working fine.
A CDS, like what, 10, 12, 17, what?
It is 7 actually on this rack.
Gotcha.
So
the control is probably pretty tight because, I mean, at that point you have, if it's 7, you have 2,500 steps. So, I mean, I don't know what the steps are on the other controllers.
6,000 for a Danfoss controller, or
what is it?
I think it's like 6,000 maybe for a Danfoss, the CCMs.
Okay. I don't know.
Like, I mean, to be honest, I think that rack works phenomenal now.
Can you
that we got?
Can you hook that bipolar stepper up to the 326, or do you have to then integrate that to the CPC?
No, it's on the 326.
Okay. Because all right, that's right. Because the HGV is on the 0 to 10, right? And then the flash tank bypass is usually on the bipolar stepper portion of that controller. Yes.
Yes, correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Yeah, it's on the 0 to 10 from that. So, and that could be going to a valve, any kind of valve driver. It could be going to, so you could be using the Danfoss magnetic driver, which I think they're phasing those out. I seen an Aldi rack the other day with one. Lately they've been using CCM valves, Danfoss CCM valves or CCMT valves.
I'm wondering what they use for industrial now, because I mean that's what all that we used to use is a lot of those valves with that motorized head on there, because it was so versatile.
I think Danfoss has a replacement for it, but like from what I'm told, they are no longer shipping racks out with those.
And even if
I'd rather have a CCM valve than that valve, because if some dickhead takes the fucking magnet, you are screwed.
Yeah. Or you could convert it to something that's a bipolar stepper motor, and because you're typically controlling it with the 0 to 10, you could use I think it's called a Sporlan IBC board, where it actually takes the signal.
Danfoss has another driver for it.
Oh, they do.
They actually have like what they want you to use. They actually have another Danfoss. It's like an EKC Super E controller.
Mm-hmm.
The blue screen on it, and you could set that up to run off a 0 to 10 volt slave. Works phenomenal.
Okay.
So that's what they're using. Or you can get super fancy when that dies, and you could make that an input to CPC and make a ESR board drive it.
True. Yeah, but hold on. If you go back for like 4 or 5 podcasts, you were complaining about the update rate, that you didn't think that the update rate on the IO network would be fast enough to control the HGV. Your words.
Well, it is it's 4 seconds. So you could drive the update rate down to 2 seconds, and you could drive the multiplex ESR to 2 seconds.
Oh, it'll never work though. It just doesn't have the control.
It did work.
I'm just taking what you said to me.
It ran for 3.5 weeks.
Yeah.
Good luck getting a 326 now, because I'm pretty sure we blew up the last one in the United States.
The last 2, or was it 2 or 3?
Yeah, it was 2 of them he let the smoke out of, and that was all from a bad flash gas bypass valve.
That's horrible.
So, all right, guys, I'm going to wrap it up because it is hot as shit in this room, and I am exhausted.
All right, I'm going. What?
What?
I don't know.
Did you stop it?
No, not yet. I will now. See you later, guys.
All right, men, this is it. The time has come. Remember product pride, portion consciousness. 0 hour is upon us. Let us seize the day.
Yeah. Carpe these nuts. God, I can't wait to quit this job.